Funding for local drug task forces are £3 million less now than they were 10 years ago, and that's despite promise after promise by successive governments. As a former director myself of the Clondalkin Drug and Alcohol Task Force, I have seen at first hand how addiction services have tried to do more with less. Drug and alcohol task forces need multi-annual funding to provide the services that their communities desperately need. In 2019, almost £65 million was seized by CAB. This money originated in areas of high levels of deprivation, areas like my own in North Clondalkin. Deprivation and poverty caused by systemic failures in government policies. Drug intimidation can take many forms. Like, you have to walk around some quiet estates that were previously quiet estates in Clondalkin, and you can see drug dealing going on with relative impunity. Neighbours are absolutely terrified, and the money that these unscrupulous drug dealers are getting, the money that eventually, hopefully, gets seized by cabs. This money needs to be put back into these communities. This money that goes to cabs originates from the purses of mothers who are paying these drug dealers due to intimidation. It should be ring-fenced to build resilience in our communities. This is not money that should be used to replace current funding, or money to be used as an excuse not to increase further funding down the road, but it should be used to resource community initiatives in the very communities who are being failed by successive governments. Minister, have your government even considered putting this money that was ripped from our communities directly back into them? People who have dual diagnosis often fall between the gaps. Addiction and mental health often go hand in hand. An addiction may lead to the onset of a mental health issue, or a mental health issue can lead to people using substances as a coping mechanism. Because of the inadequacies in the state's mental health system, people can turn to drink and drugs to give calm to an anxious inner world. Myself and Tommy Gould have legislation at second stage, the No Wrong Door Bill, and I will be asking your government to support that when it goes through the House. And finally, you only have to walk through our parks and estates to see the discarded nitrous oxide canisters, also known as silver bullets. As community structures for children, such as sports and schools and youth clubs, have decreased because of the pandemic and restrictions, the use of nitrous oxide has increased. The problem is that our kids are playing Russian roulette with this substance. They do not know how it will affect them until they actually take it. So, Minister, I'm asking, what measures have you taken to combat this issue, and do you still believe that it's just a Dublin problem, like you previously stated?
First of all, I do agree with the Deputy regarding the ring fencing of funding. My colleague, Deputy Neil Richmond, has been to the forefront, and many others. And maybe it's time for a debate on that would be put back into the local drug task forces or addressing the issues.